Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you've ever felt like you're just constantly pouring your energy, your love, or your faith into a situation without seeing a single visible result, well, this one is absolutely for you. Today, we're unpacking a deeply profound perspective on spiritual and emotional endurance. We're going to explore this incredibly empathetic validation for anyone out there experiencing major burnout from a really long season of waiting. It completely challenges how we view success, patience, and the unseen work that's happening right beneath the surface of our lives. So let's just dive right into this.
We're kicking things off with this incredibly comforting promise. Your life is prospering in my hands right now, even when the surface tells you otherwise. We are constantly bombarded by the world's loud, flashy metrics of success. Barns getting full overnight, instant visible yields, immediate returns on every investment we make. But there is an entirely different reality at play here, and that's heaven's timeline. It suggests a slow, quiet prospering that happens underneath the surface. And honestly, it's a kind of prospering that might completely contradict the barrenness you think you see when you look at your life right now.
All right, part one, the unseen labor of planting. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the unseen labor of planting. Think about all those totally unrewarded, behind-the-scenes efforts that leave us feeling just completely depleted. We're talking about a father waking up way before dawn to provide for a family that doesn't fully understand the cost of that alarm clock, or a daughter driving across town twice a week to care for a parent who doesn't even recognize her face anymore. A widow returning to a small ministry that has thanked her exactly one time in 11 years. A teacher pouring everything into students whose parents are literally never going to email her a thank you. Or a nurse staying way past her shift just because the patient in room 12 asked her to. The absolute crucial takeaway here is that not a single one of these quiet, obedient acts has gone uncounted. Every soft tone, every shortened prayer, every unreciprocated effort, it's all logged as a seed entering the ground. Tiredness like yours is the tiredness of a real planter, not of a quitter. So often, we equate our exhaustion with failure, don't we? We think, man, if I were doing this right, I wouldn't be this bone tired. But we really need to release that guilt. A quitter stops scattering seed. A planter? A planter keeps scattering even when their arm is sore. Actually, scratch that, especially when their arm is sore. If your arm is aching from the sheer effort of trying, of loving, of praying, that is proof of your perseverance. It is not a symptom of failure. Look, there are going to be mornings when you just do not feel it anymore. You might walk back out to your field with significantly less expectation than you had the day before. But the very act of walking out there anyway, returning to an empty field morning after morning when you feel absolutely nothing, that is received as an act of profound worship. It's honestly one of the ultimate demonstrations of faith. Moving right along to part two, unlearning the false maps. So if this slow planting is so noble and good, why does it feel so terrible? Well, it's because we have to unlearn these toxic teachings that act as a false map. They basically train us to equate a spiritual or circumstantial delay with personal failure. Maybe you picked this up from a workplace that completely drained you, or a relationship that took without ever giving back, or maybe environments that treated ministry like a giant vending machine. You know the drill. Insert your obedience, expect an immediate outcome, and then shake the box angrily if your reward doesn't drop. That literally trains our nervous systems to view slow harvests as betrayals. But the reality is, true prospering works in real soil. It's about a slow ripening underneath the surface, unseen root growth, and a storehouse that fills up quietly, just one handful at a time across the years.
So here's what you really need to take away from this, and it's incredibly liberating. A slow season is absolutely not a verdict on your life. Measuring your progress by the visible stalks above the ground means you're using the totally wrong instrument. The empty appearance of your life right now is not a punishment for planting in the wrong field. Instead, that apparent emptiness is literally the room where your ultimate harvest is currently being multiplied and conditioned.
Which brings us to part three, the hidden root system. Let's shift our focus downward for a minute, right beneath the soil, to see what's actually happening during these exhausting periods of waiting. Think of a threshing floor. From the outside, it looks completely unremarkable, just a flat, dusty circle behind some barn. But it's actually the place where the massive, long labor of a farming year reaches its quiet conclusion. It's wild, but out in nature, some seeds actually require incredibly harsh conditions, like intense freezing temperatures or literally a forest fire, just to break their dormancy and start germinating. And the difficult season you are in right now is acting much the same way. It's purposefully separating the true, solid kernel of your obedience from all the chaff, the worry, the comparison, the false math, and the borrowed shame. Only what is absolutely necessary remains. I want you to try a quick physical exercise with me right now. Just press your foot down firmly into the earth or the floor beneath you. Notice how the ground simply receives your weight without arguing? That exact same firmness is happening right now underneath the season of your obedience. The depth of the soil isn't just sitting there idle, it is incredibly busy preparing. The earth holds what it was made to hold, and crucially, it doesn't lose its grip just because the planter walking across it has grown tired. Your unseen work is deeply, deeply secured. Okay, let's jump into part 4, breaking down Galatians 6:9. We're going to treat this verse like an anatomy lesson of spiritual endurance. Galatians 6:9 shouldn't just be viewed as some shiny, polished cliche you throw up on a presentation screen. It was originally penned as real ink on parchment by a genuinely tired man named Paul. And he sent it from the road to tired believers in these small, forgotten house churches tucked away in the dry hills of Galatia. These were folks doing small, totally unrecorded acts of welcome from tiny pockets of the world, wondering if any of their faithfulness was actually being seen by anyone. This wasn't a platitude. It was a gritty lifeline thrown to exhausted people. Let's methodically break down the anatomy of this verse. First up, let us not grow weary. Notice he says, let us, meaning you were never meant to fight this weariness alone. The Maker is right there in the field beside you. Next, doing good. Now, this doesn't mean doing famous or flashy, extraordinary things. It means the small, repeated, totally unwitnessed good of simply getting up for one more morning and staying tender. Then we have due season. This requires literally putting down your earthly stopwatch and deciding to trust the calendar of heaven. We will reap. Notice the verb there is will. It's not might or could maybe. It's a rock-solid guarantee with zero escape clauses, even if your faith happens to take a nosedive on a random Wednesday. And finally, if we do not give up. The condition here isn't perfection, guys. It simply means remaining in the rows, just continuing to walk the field even with a sore arm and much shorter prayers. If you have been crying over your seemingly barren field, I want to beautifully reframe that grief for you right now. Those who sow with tears reap with songs of joy. Every single tear that lands on the ground while you are obeying is not lost. Tears do not contaminate the seed. Tears are literally the water on the seed. The field you are working in drinks up your grief and somehow miraculously turns it into bread. And this leads us to a massive psychological pivot. What if you stopped asking, when am I going to see it? Because let's be real, that question usually just returns a whole lot of dread. And instead, you started asking, what if the ripening has already begun underneath? This completely shifts the narrative from agonizing over some distant future harvest to recognizing that the profound invisible work is already well underway, right beneath your feet. That brings us to our final section, Part 5, Practices for the Wait. So, how do we actually survive the rest of this wait in our real, everyday lives? Well, here is a very gentle 3-beat practice to help your nervous system unlearn all that anxiety. Step 1, ask that what-if question. Seriously, what if the ripening has already begun? Step 2, linger in that relief. Don't just sprint past it to the next worry. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw unclench, and register that the harvest might be way closer than your nerves are telling you. Stay in that relief for a breath longer than feels natural. And step 3, notice the small mercies. A friend texting you at the exact right hour, a completely quiet moment of peace in your car. Don't dismiss those things as coincidences. Acknowledge them as the early, quiet fragrances of a turning season. Honor the fragments. Let's just do something together right now. Take 1 second and breathe out longer than you breathed in, just for one slow round. It is the absolute smallest possible trust prayer you can do. A long exhale teaches your body that the autumn is not in danger, and it physically releases that crushing burden of timing right off your shoulders, handing it back to the Maker. Timing is their department. Yours is simply staying in the field. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to basically carry this vital mantra around inside your rib cage. The season is turning. The harvest is yours. Weave those 2 lines right into the lining of your ordinary days this week. Don't measure your orchard against the one down the road. Just walk, do your small good, and keep your gathering basket nearby. Autumn doesn't ever send out advance notice, It just arrives in a single quiet daybreak. So as you look at your own life, what unseen roots are multiplying under your surface right now as you wait for the daybreak? Keep tending to your field, my friends, because the unseen work is incredibly real.